Hi, I'm Kai, and I recently landed a PM internship at Tesla. In my previous video, I covered everything up to getting an interview. In this video, I'm going to share how I prepared for my Tesla PM interviews. I'll break it down to how I prepared and my Tesla interview experience. Picking up from last video, after my referral was made, I was emailed by a recruiter exactly 3 weeks later. After the excitement high and sharing the news with close friends and family, I started to brainstorm on the best way to prepare. I started by asking advice from people in PM and related fields. I also started doing my own research online on how to best prepare for PM interviews. Doing your own research and Googling is a good starting point to get you thinking about what things you need to consider. After the original email, my recruiter scheduled the interview and also provided me with a list of tips to help me prepare. This was also a really helpful starting point. I mainly focused on filling the main gap I had at the time, PM knowledge. I made a master document with all things Tesla related, questions I wanted to prepare for, PM knowledge I wanted to learn, and resources I wanted to check out. This document would evolve as time went on, and I learned of things that I didn't even know I needed to prepare for. This was very helpful because I could keep tough questions in the back of my head and think of possible answers as I went about my day. Here are the most helpful resources for PM interview prep I found. Most of my effort went towards learning as much as I could about product management, but I also prepared for classic behavioral questions and did some mock interviews and company research. Behavioral questions, unlike technical questions, are ones based on how you acted in a specific situation. Practicing behavioral questions can help you get a sense of what types of experiences you can draw from to answer these types of questions. I specifically practice behavioral questions using the STAR method of situation, task, action, result. This helps to structure your answer to ensure that the interviewer can understand the context, what you did, and the impact you had. At first, you can take your time to think of what a good answer to that question could be. That could take a few minutes or half an hour. I would sometimes not be able to think of anything and would keep the question in the back of my head as I went about my day. For the tell me about yourself question, try to craft a narrative that ties your story together. Bring it back to Tesla or the company you're applying to and why you want to work there. Mention your experience and how it's relevant to the job you're applying to, and end by mentioning a project or two and offering to elaborate on those, or have the interviewer ask another question. Practice is key. You can practice by answering questions out loud to yourself, or by recording yourself, or in a mock interview with someone else. Mock interviews are super important. Although they can make you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable at first, this is good because they can help you notice which areas you can improve on, and then you can focus on actually improving. It's better to embarrass yourself in front of a friend or acquaintance than in front of the interviewer. You can ask a friend or your school's career center or anyone else you think could help you out. Remember that you have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone to grow, and feeling a little stupid is just a part of that. I also spent some time digging deeper into Tesla, learning about the company in general, but specifically about my team, familiarizing myself with their product as much as possible, and thinking about how I could bring value to the table. What problems are they facing, and how can I help solve them? This is the underlying question that interviewers are trying to figure out, and you should be able to show from your application materials and interview that you have what it takes to gain a stable footing, learn as you go, and bring value to the team. Try to understand the team and what they do, and what your role in the team would be as much as possible. Write a list of questions that you would like to ask to learn more about the company, team, or role. Then, try answering them on your own by searching them online. Those that you can't find online could be good questions to ask in the interview. Here's the list of questions I compiled. When you interview with Tesla, you're typically applying for a specific team and role, so your interviewers are often members of the team you're applying to. My first interview was 30 minutes long with a product manager on my potential team. I also looked him up on LinkedIn to get some general background. The day of the interview, be sure to get good sleep, clear your calendar if you can to rid yourself of other distractions and sources of stress, and be sure to dress for success. Breathe. You did all you could to prepare, now it's just about leveraging what you already know. Be yourself, you got this. Alright, first interview, let's go. The first interview focused more on who I was, my skills, interests, and previous experience. One of the most common internship interview questions is along the lines of walk me through your resume or tell me about yourself. This was one that I spent a good amount of time working on. I'll start with my background and why I chose to major in mechanical engineering, which was my segue into my main narrative, a passion for sustainability. That's why I chose Mechie, that's why I have so many sustainability related experiences on my resume, and that's why I'm interested in Tesla. Always bring it back to the company. Try to show that you're being intentional in your journey. That can mean working towards a specific goal, or if you don't have a specific goal, exploring different areas to find what best suits you is totally valid too. I'd then wrap up my answer by mentioning my most recent experiences and projects, and giving the interviewer the option to learn more about these, or to move on to another question. Whenever I shared a STAR story, their follow-up questions were typically to understand exactly what I did and how I went about it in detail. They want to know what tools you used and what steps you took to solve the problem. For example, saying, "I developed a solution," isn't that great. Instead, try providing more context. For example, in my previous internship, I developed a process where program managers could use their existing database and apply a sequence of filters in order to produce wind turbine reports. This explains what my solution was, how it worked, and how it brought value in enough detail while still being concise. This type of answer can sound a bit overwhelming, but it's just to illustrate how to hit the main points. I didn't just wing it. A good answer takes time to develop. So don't panic. Take your time to craft a solid answer. The more you practice, the easier it gets. While answering STAR questions, I also made sure to explain the reasoning behind each decision I made, the factors involved, and the considerations I made along the way. Remember that it's not just about the outcome, but how you got there. Not knowing everything is okay. I didn't have an energy storage background or SQL experience, but I could grow into the role and learn as I went, and I could back up such a claim. I mentioned that I had the foundational knowledge to pick things up quickly for both software and science. And to back up this claim, I mentioned that in my previous internship, I didn't know much about wind turbines in general, but within a few weeks, I was well versed with the general workings of a wind turbine and how the relevant components for the projects I was involved with worked. Towards the end of the interview, we were almost out of time. The interviewer said we probably only had time for one question. So I looked at the list of questions I had prepared and asked, "What's the biggest challenge the team is currently facing?" The next day, I sent a follow-up thank you note. Don't forget the thank you note. My first interviewer had said that it'd be a couple of weeks until I heard back. About 3 weeks had passed and I hadn't heard any news, so I followed up with my recruiter. I then got an email saying that I had been invited to another interview. The second interview was also 30 minutes long with another product manager on the team I was applying to. This time I had a challenging behavioral question that I'm really glad I prepared for. I talked about a specific example from one of my projects when a specific team member was not following through on their commitments and was not communicating. I shared how I handled the situation, adapting in order to get the project across the finish line and also proactively reaching out to our team member. We're still students with a lot on our plates and COVID was still very much present, so that could have been a factor too. I think the interviewer liked that I emphasized an empathetic approach, understanding that people are still human and have other stuff going on in their lives. At the end of the interview, we only had time for a couple of questions. I asked a follow-up question to the one I had asked my first interview. This showed that I had thought about it and wanted to dig deeper. After the interview, you already know I sent a follow-up thank you note. The interviewer said it would probably be a couple of weeks until the team made a decision. It was a nerve-wracking few days, but I ended up receiving the offer the following week. I don't think I can express how huge this was for me. From first hearing about Tesla when I was back in high school in Panama and having it seem so out of reach to finally being able to achieve what was literally my dream internship meant a lot. And it really hit when I let my high school physics teacher, who would become my friend and mentor, know that I had made it. This meant a lot to me, and it's why I decided to share my journey, to inspire you guys to push yourselves, to pursue your aspirations, and know that your dreams are in fact within your reach. So, to review, my PM Tesla interviews consisted of 2 rounds, 30 minutes each, with actual product managers from the team I was applying to. The first interview focused more on who I was and my previous experience. The second interview focused more on the role and gauging how it fit in the team. Lastly, I want to share the best piece of advice I've heard for interviews. You are so brilliant and hardworking, you just want to have conversations that showcase that. Be yourself and come into every conversation with enthusiasm and questions. With that, I hope you found the video helpful. Please consider dropping a like, subscribing, and sharing it with anyone you think could also benefit from it. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your journey. Peace out.